Ladies and gentlemen, has everybody signed up for public comment that wants to? You will not be called on unless you sign up. So if anybody else wants to be called on, don't want to miss anybody. Thank you. We'll start in just a minute.
It's supposed to be about what the presentations were. That's the concept of it, right? Then it picks up and then that covers the presentation, but be good. Awesome. It's gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
That's for. Yeah, sure. Wow.
Yeah.
Very important.
During the.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you full house this morning. Welcome to our regular commission meeting for August 28th, 2026. It is now 9:02 a.m. Ms. Torres, would you please take roll?
Honorable Ralph Kessler,
Present.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Present.
Honorable Ingo Hauptner,
Present.
Honorable Chad Klein,
Here.
and Honorable Amanda Foster is absent.
Thank you. I call this meeting to order. Please join me in 15 seconds of silent meditation. Jerry Gustin, or Jagger, as many of us know him, is our film liaison. He's in hospice, if we didn't know. And so if you wouldn't mind just donating 15 seconds of your time for silent meditation, it would be appreciated. Thank you. If you're able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. In the interest of expediency, we're going to make a couple of minor changes to our agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move C2 presentations in front of C1. And then moving F6 up to follow C1. That has been moved.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, a second, Ms. Torres.
Honorable Ralph Kessler.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're up for commission comments. Does anyone want to start?
I just want to say good morning. I have a full report written. Take a time today where I'm going to save that for the first meeting and that's it for the meetings.
Arthur, do you have anything?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for all being here and showing your support here to the city and everything. And also here, the summer season is almost over, and here we have a lot of things planned in the near future. So please here come on down to downtown and support the businesses and everything around. And yeah, and here let's move on. And I have a report here.
I don't really have a report. Just thank you guys for coming out today, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. I do have a short report if you'll bear with me. Earlier this year, we received an FBI investigation, public service announcement concerning malicious cyber attacks. This prompted us to do an internal review, meeting with our department heads, our city manager, and staff to see where we were and if we're safe in regards to cyber attacks. And so bear with me while I read this. I'm a little bit new at this stuff, but I learned a lot. So I guess that's part of my job. So on August 17, 26, I had the privilege to meet with department heads and the city manager Whitehead regarding a recent PSA from the FBI regarding malicious cyber actors, charting water and wastewater systems. This PSA is available online, dated July 30th, 2026. Just search FBI PSA malicious cyber attacks. In the last month, there have been over 100 attempts by bad actors to hack into water and wastewater systems in 8 states. As a result of this PSA from the FBI, we felt an analysis of our system was advisable to understand the level of protection that we have. We do follow guidelines advised in the article put out on the FBI website. The servers attacks were largely not secured firewalls and had no password or insecure passwords. The attackers forced their way into the management functions on the equipment and then changed usernames, passwords on devices to disrupt the functions. So what we're doing right. We have manual override capability. Transitioning pumps to manual, if SCADA, which is supervisor control and data acquisition systems that we have, is compromised, directly aligns with the FBI's mandate to maintain physical manual operations. Local controls for coordination. Keeping our coordination systems on local controls prevents threat actors from manipulating chemical levels remotely. So that's a safeguard on our part. Redundancy. Conducting physical daily rounds provides an essential physical validation check on our assets. We check our systems daily physically, not just relying on SCADA itself. Our servers and systems are fairly new. In the past 2 years, we have replaced many of our outdated systems, which are more compatible with modern technology and equipment. So the possible vulnerabilities that we have, SCADA exposure via mobile VPN. Allowing supervisors to monitor SCADA on personal phones via a VPN means our operational technology network may still be indirectly exposed to the internet. The most likely way to hack our system is through compromised credentials or an email hack. Our operators should have strong passwords or even multi-level authentication in some cases. An important consideration is that SCADA is downstream of the firewall. Strong passwords or multi-level authentication are important actions to prevent intrusion. Remember, any attack should be short-lived because we do check our systems daily and can operate them manually if needed. I also reached out to our IT expert, Michael Koslowski, and asked him to kind of look at the systems a little bit and advise what he thought. And he gave us 5 bullet points, and it kind of reinforces what we discovered in our meeting and through our own research. So access to the server is protected by secure username and password. So our guys use some pretty good usernames and they're protected. The server is behind a city firewall, as well as another vendor provided firewall that is specifically only for their equipment. So SCADA is protected by a firewall, so are the city functions. Access to the server is only allowed through traffic ports, with all other traffic being blocked by our firewall. This type of traffic generally can't cause disruption without someone's credentials being compromised. So that's why we have to have important credentials. The server and firewalls are updated with all the latest security patches, which mitigates the vulnerability risk. Most administrative functions, including the administrative functions exploited in these attacks, cannot be accessed through the currently allowed traffic from outside. Those have to be done on-site via direct access to the server or via a secure VPN connection from the vendor IT. We also inherently block a lot of risky bad actor IP addresses in our firewall, which mitigates potential attackers and blocks certain suspicious behaviors as well. So in a nutshell, after review of our systems, I think I can make the point that we're safer than most. I think our systems are protected, that we have our firewalls in place. And I feel much better after having gone through this exercise with the city manager and our department heads. So thank you for putting up with me, but I hope this assures some folks that our water and wastewater systems will not be hacked or compromised. Thank you. Thank you. That's my report. All right, any staff comments?
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, good morning to all of you at the end of August. We've had a busy week, so my report is going to be really simple. We spent the week at the New Mexico Municipal League in Las Cruces, going through some education classes and important items. So just kind of getting my feet back on the ground, and staff performed well. We still fight water leaks. I checked the list this morning. We're at about 18 water leaks active right now. But things are going well. We, excited. We have Foch Street open. We also patched up another road downtown. You're going to see some contracts today for some streets. So we're really kind of changing our focus. We put together, now that we have our supplier contract with Bar2 Sand and Gravel approved, we're starting to work on some streets. So we'll be over on Cherry Lane really soon, and Arrowhead. We have those two roads scheduled to be paved. And then really excited to get started on Marie Street. We have about, again, 1.8 million to start working on Marie Street. And so we're just waiting for an engineering contract to get that kicked off. So just going to be a busy fourth quarter here, and hopefully we'll get a little focus on streets. Water contractors are just moving along great. I know that it's a little bit of construction fatigue, but they're moving along, and the right of way is very nice. I haven't spoke with the gas company yet this morning to find out. I'm hoping they're planning on opening South Broadway today. They had a gas leak that was exposed. No one hit anything there. When they opened the ground to put the water line in, they found gas smell in the area, and so gas company had to come in and replace that entire line per their regulations. So that's what's been the hold up there and getting it done. So with that, I'd stand for any questions, or let's move on.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? Attorney Rubin, do you have any comments? Or?
No, good morning, everyone, but I have nothing to report this.
Okay, you're not on the agenda, but I thought I'd ask you.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir. No.
All right, let's move on to presentations. And we had a little switch here. We're going to move item C1 and item C2. So we're going to start out with item C2, proclamation honoring 103 years of Truth or Consequences Volunteer Fire Department. I'm going to read the proclamation for you. Honoring 103 years of Truth or Consequences Volunteer Fire Department. Whereas the Truth or Consequences Volunteer Fire Department has proudly served the city of Truth or Consequences and Sierra County for 103 years, protecting the lives, property, and safety of our residents through the dedication of its volunteer firefighters. And whereas generations of volunteers have given countless hours of their time, training, and personal sacrifice to answer the call at all hours, often leaving their own families and jobs behind to respond to emergencies large and small. And whereas through the commitment of its volunteers, the Truth or Consequences Volunteer Fire Department has become the first all-volunteer fire department in New Mexico to achieve an ISO Class 2 rating, growing the department's annual state fire protection fund allotted from less than $100,000 to approximately $525,000 for fiscal year 26 and 27. Whereas the members of the department have responded to thousands of calls for service over the decades, embodying the true spirit of volunteerism by protecting neighbors, friends, and family without exception of pay or recognition. And whereas the department's volunteers have also given generously of their time to the broader community, serving on local boards in emergency management and in countless civic efforts that have strengthened Truth or Consequences far beyond the fire station. And whereas the legacy of the Truth or Consequences Volunteer Fire Department and the example set by all who have served within it reflect the enduring spirit of volunteerism, sacrifice, and hometown pride that defines the city of Truth or Consequences. And whereas this legacy has been guided for the past 44 years of service by Fire Chief Paul Tooley, who has served as chief for the past 17 of those years, with dedication that is honored here as a reflection of the volunteer spirit shared by all who have served alongside him. Now, therefore, I, Rolf Heschler, Mayor of the City of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, on behalf of the governing body, do hereby proclaim recognition of the 103rd anniversary of the Truth or Consequences Volunteer Fire Department and extend the city's deepest gratitude to every volunteer, past and present, who has served this department for their unwavering commitment to the safety and well-being of our community. So at this time, I would like members of the volunteer fire department to come in front of the dais, and Chief Tooley, yourself too. And then why don't we stand up behind them? How bad it's gonna be. We'll see. If it's not too crowded, we can come up front.
So in honor of your 44 years of commitment to the Truth Consequences Fire Department, we would like to present you with this commemorative special edition. Henry Golden Boy for the firemen. You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Everybody good? All right. Congratulations. Well, we usually don't allow firearms inside this building, but I think we'll make one exception. Yeah, sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming. Here. All right, let's move on to our first presentation, Turtleback Trail presentation, Mary Jo Fall. Welcome back, Olson.
Well, hi, everybody, it's good to be back, to be talking about something other than problems. So I'm bringing some good news. And just to kind of give an update and reminder that the Turtleback Trails Network, that's what this is kind of about. John Master said he couldn't come today, but he sent me his notes from his first meeting. It was July of 2018. So we've been meeting a long time. And we didn't have a lot to show for it. I mean, we got the trail plan done and that took 6 years. So I think we've really done some good things and continuing to meet. Our core group of people are still plugging forward. And just a reminder, this is a trail plan, mostly following the county and city road on the other side of the river, A005. It will be a walking trail and a multi-use trail along the roads that are already in existence. The plan also called for improvements to get in and get out of the river, and we called it a river trail. Of course, our main focal points would be footbridges here, hopefully near Rotary Park, and then one by Williamsburg, and then just continued road to take advantage of recreation trails. And so 2 years ago, Jornada, which that's who I'm representing today, the Jornada Resource Conservation and Development Council, we applied for to the Outdoor Recreation Fund for some interpretive panels to be placed along the A005 road. And our plans are to put one every mile. And then we when we were working with the National Park Service, they provided funds to put an education sign at Rotary Park. And then there's one in front of the Williamsburg Post Office. And so we're going to replace those signs. And then we will have trailheads. We have plans for 3. One would be right where you cross the river on the bridge, on the Rio Grande, where people mostly put in when they're floating. We're going to have a trailhead sign there. And then one kind of by the low water crossing, because a lot of people at that point, shortly after, you can go up toward the hills or continue along A005. And then we will put another one down there. Williamsburg hasn't really been able to determine where they're going to put their bridge. And so we want to kind of have it down by there. And we're also working with the BLM to perhaps deviate from the road itself and kind of cross the river where the wastewater treatment plant is. We're going to go away from the road and then traverse, that's about a mile along the river itself, just to have a more outdoor experience. So we're pretty excited. And what I just wanted to do was give you that update, but I have goodies. And I didn't want to put it in the packet because I want to wait for the public to see it. I want to wait until we have them done, and then we're going to have a really cool event. And you know, they're all different. So okay, so there's 7 different signs, and like one will and they're different colors. And so our logo for the trail is this turtle, and it has different colors in the shell. So red is one of the colors. And so each component of the trail on the red will be about history. And then there's one about agriculture. There's one about plants. There's one about aquatics. There's one about geology. Take one and pass them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
All along. Anyway, we're pretty excited, and we had a really good group put that together. I had the Sierra County Extension Office. They did the ag stats, and we made sure that the stats that are listed, we have the date we gathered the stats so people can reference that. I coerced my daughter-in-law, who's a wildlife biologist, to do the wildlife portion. Actually, I said, I'll trade you, I'll babysit if you'll write this down. We had the Gem and Mineral Show, write the component for the geology. I got most of the history together from books that Sherry Fletcher had written. So those are in there. The Sierra Soil wrote the plant component, and Mark Hedge did the aquatic component. So we got a good variety. We've been working with Mo to get that done. And this was all transpiring when my husband was quite ill, and so it took a lot longer to get to this point than what we had hoped. But we're here, and so I'm gonna call and order the signs next week. We're gonna use the same company that the city used when we did the Healing Waters Trail signs. National Park Service used that company too. They're very dependable and reliable. And then we have to have them installed and completed by the end of December. So what we were talking about, our trail group started meeting again now that I'm back and being able to engage. And so we're going to have John have an event, and we'll invite all of you and kind of have a ribbon cutting or something. But we're pretty excited to have these because we're finally seeing something produced from all of our efforts. So we're pretty excited to do that. And I will be making this presentation. I want to get the county and Eltham Butte engaged along with Williamsburg. So I'll be making the rounds for the city, but that's kind of it. Do I have any questions?
Here.
Say yippee.
Good job.
Mary Jo, thank you. I remember working or letting you work, and I'm tagging along way back when we served together. It's been a long time coming. Signs are beautiful.
8 years. To get the first thing done. I think it's really going to open the community, all of us together, and the group. Once we get this done, we're going to continue moving forward. I know Jay attends a meeting so that we can start addressing all the other components of our trail. So pretty exciting stuff.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We're going to change the agenda one more time and allow item F6 to be presented now because it's related. And then we'll move on to a public comment after that. So Mr. Heschler, you're up.
Morning, Mayor, Pro Tem Commissioners. What you have in front of you is a memorandum of understanding between the County of Sierra and the City of Truth or Consequences. The Trails Plus grant, that's what we'll be applying for. The application is due September 30th. They have it tiered into 3 different tiers. Your first tier goes up to 100,000, your second tier goes up to 500,000, and your third tier goes up to $1 million. Tier 2 and tier 3, the Trails Plus committee, what they want to see is a regional collaboration. So what you see in front of you is a memorandum of understanding between the county and the city. The city's responsibilities will be ensuring the program activities and finances of the Riverwalk Trail are in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations and requirements, managing construction of the trail in accordance with all local, state, and federal standards, distributing and accounting for all grant funds, keeping the county updated on progress and important milestones, designating a point of contact for communications regarding the project, reporting the required activities and accomplishments to the New Mexico Outdoor Recreation Division. And under this MOU, Sierra County agrees to promote the completed project through social media channels and other marketing efforts, attend and participate in opening and celebratory events such as ribbon cutting ceremony, be available for technical assistance as needed, designated point of contact for communicating regarding the project, reach out to countywide groups and organizations that would have interest in the project, such as outdoor groups, youth clubs, and local chambers of commerce. And so what the project is it's going to be a riverwalk trail, concrete trail that is at Ralph Edwards Park between the river and the park, starting at the boat dock. It will go around the skate park and then hopefully all the way down to Riverbend. And it'll be a trail system. What I would like to do is maybe use some of the Turtleback Trails signage as part of maybe like the in-kind match services, because they're beautiful signs. You know, I sit on that committee as well, and they did a great job with those signs. And so that would be part of it. And then obviously, you know, being tier 2 or tier 3, I also want to collaborate with some of the other groups. I'm thinking like maybe Geronimo Springs, Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to talk with Mary Jo. I know she sits on some committees on how we can truly make this a regional collaboration to strengthen our grant application. So hopefully the county can support our MOU as well. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Commissioners, do we have any questions?
No, I think it's a good program. I'd like to see that area developed more and get more usage for it.
It's actually in the big picture, really, what really helps if we get the MOU approved, that's going to help you with the application for funding. That's really the big thing here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what
Yes,
I got it, right? So,
You know, and we've accomplished a lot with Ralph Evans Park with grant funding. And we want to keep that momentum going. Riverwalk trail, bird watching, maybe a fishing pier, you know, or something of that nature. Really capture that park, you know, and also attract a lot of tourism and things of that nature. There's a lot of market for that. There's people that travel all over to go, you know, walk trails, bird watch, things of that nature. So, you know, I think it'd be a great addition to the park.
So, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU with the Sierra County for the trails as presented.
I second.
Motion in the second, Ms. Torres?
Honorable Charles Goins,
Aye.
Honorable Ron Costello.
Aye.
Honorable Dustin Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Bill Walker.
Aye.
Motion carries. I think we're going to try to make one more change, Ms. Torres. Since we have another special guest here, and since we have an audience to enjoy this, I think it's important that we present this. And so let's take item G4. I'd like a motion for this. Take item G4 and discuss that next. But we'll have the presentation that goes alongside with item G4 first, because we have a special guest in Amber Vaughn. Can we set up for that, Ms. Torres?
We are.
Thank you. And may I have a motion to do that?
Make a motion to move item G4 up to where we are now at C4. Correct.
Yes.
Second.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Second, Torres.
Honorable Ron Costello.
Aye.
Honorable Dustin Mitchell. Honorable Bill Walker.
Aye.
Honorable Charles Goins.
Aye.
Carries. Okay. Good morning, Ms. Vaughn. Thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. Morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for having me. For the record, Amber Vaughn, Sierra County Manager. So on August 7th, Sierra County held a special meeting and declared a local disaster due to the historically low levels of Elephant Butte Lake. As part of that discussion, I began looking more closely at our economic and tourism indicators. Rather than relying just on anecdotal evidence, I wanted to look at several different data points and see what the numbers actually tell us. So for this analysis, I pulled several types of data. I looked at the total GRT for Sierra County, Truth or Consequences, Elephant Butte, and Williamsburg. Then I broke down the GRT by the different industries. And then I looked to look more closely at the ones that are affected by tourism. I also looked at the lodger's tax from all the different entities, and I appreciate everybody forwarding that information to me fairly quickly. For most of the economic data, I use January through June for each year. So we're comparing the same 6 months data over 3 years. So 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026. So 4 years, sorry. This right here shows you just over the last couple of years, the physical condition of the lake. You can see 2025 or 2023, I'm sorry, in blue, it's high, and every year after that, we have gone lower and lower. This isn't the first time we have seen low lake levels. 3% was last year. This year, we're seeing historically low of 1.4. I also looked at the people that are actually visiting the lake. So we didn't have a lot of data on this. But the ones I could validate were these ones. Memorial Day visitation was approximately 60,000 in 2025 and about 35,000 this year. That's roughly a 42% decline. 4th of July was approximately 110,000 in 2024 compared to 82,000 this year. That's a 25% decline. 82,000 people is still a significant number of visitors, but the comparable holiday numbers we do have indicate fewer visitors over time. So on this slide, I looked at the GRT as a whole. I didn't break it down by industry. We're probably we just looked at this, we may not be having this conversation. Truth or Consequences has actually had its strongest January through June period of these 4 years at approximately 3.79 million. So overall GRT does not show that the city as a whole has experienced a broad decline, but total GRT can hide what's actually happening to local businesses. So I wanted to break down Tier C's numbers just a little bit more. So with this, I went and pulled out the different industries. Retail trade is Tier C's largest industry category at just under 900,000, compared to like the county's biggest GRT is construction. Construction is the second in Tier C with 679,000. Accommodations and food is about 427,000, and healthcare and social assistance is about 404,000. This is important because Tier C has a fairly diversified GRT base. Tourism matters, but it's not the only thing generating revenue for the city. So this doesn't tell you exactly what's going on in the individual businesses around town. So the strong total GRT doesn't tell us about hotels, restaurants, visitor-related businesses, or other sectors that can offset. So what did I include in tourism-sensitive GRT? For this analysis, I pulled 3 categories that I thought best showed visitor activity: accommodations and food, arts and entertainment, and retail trade. I want to emphasize that I'm calling these tourism-sensitive, not tourism-specific, so they'll still have GRT even if we don't have tourism. A resident buying goods or services still generates retail GRT just like a visitor does. A local resident eating at a restaurant is included in the accommodations and food. So we can't take these numbers and say that tourism dollars are what. So we need to look at these more closely. So for this one, I pulled each entity individually. Sierra County has risen from 993,000 in 2023 to a little over 1 million in 2026. While Tier C moves from approximately 1.384 million to 1.365 to 1.342 to 1.327. So that is a decline over time. You can see it in the chart. Tier C's overall GRT is up, but these 3 tourism sensitive categories combined have gradually declined year over year.
I have a question about what you just showed though. So I'm looking at those 4 bar graphs you have up there.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying I'm trying to read it.
Yeah, sorry, it's so small.
The top number is 1.3.
So this first one is Sierra County, and that first one is 993,000.
No, I meant Truth or Consequences.
Yes, that is 1.384.
Okay.
And then in 2026, it went down to 1.327.
Sorry. I did look at that once before. Okay.
No problem.
Excuse me.
So yeah, and even just looking, Sierra County's has gone up while Truth or Consequences has gone down over that.
I think really maybe what kind of deceived me, in fact, it's my own perception was, if you look at the 2026 bar graph, it only looks like it's about half as high as the 2023, but actually the difference isn't quite as stark though.
Right.
All right, that's what my point. Okay.
It's still showing that over those periods of time that GRT has fallen, those specific, the tourism sensitive GRT. So this right here kind of gives us our first indication that the economy is being a little bit affected by lower visitation. So here's the other two entities, Elephant Butte and Williamsburg. Elephant Butte went from 164,000 down to went up to about 182 and then back down. Williamsburg is 222,000 up to 446,000. So these are on a different page because they're much smaller dollars, so they didn't really compare on the same page. All right, the next one I went through was the lodger's tax. This is where I think we see the clearest evidence in the visitor economy because it's much more directly tied to overnight stays. For Truth or Consequences, January through June lodger's tax was about 268,000 in 2024. It fell to about 252,000 in 2025, and then about 229,000 in 2026. That's a decline of approximately $39,000 or 14.7% compared with 2024. So we're seeing fewer lodging dollars, but we're not seeing the same decline in overall city GRT. So also I looked at the labor market. The February unemployment rate peaked at 7.9%, then declined to 6% in June. January to June, labor force increased by 17, employment increased by 67, and unemployment declined by 50. 6% is still elevated, so I'm not suggesting there isn't an issue, but the most recent data doesn't show continued deterioration. So what the data shows. Tier C overall GRT is actually strong, and we see significant activity in retail, construction, healthcare, and other sectors. But I also don't think we can ignore the warning signs. Lodgers tax is down. Tier C's tourism sensitive GRT has gradually declined, and the holiday visitation we can compare are lower in 2026. The labor market showed some stress early this year, although June numbers have improved. So my takeaway is that we are seeing some visitor related indicators trending downward, but because the lake is now an extraordinarily low, I think an important thing is to continue tracking these same indicators over the next year or two to see how that affects it. I'm really curious for July's GRT numbers. GRT numbers are 2 months behind, so I won't get those until September 15th, but I plan on updating this presentation with that information. With that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
No.
So your timeframes ended in June.
Yes,
Visitation's been down dramatically at the lake, so
Yes.
the hard numbers are yet to come.
yes, exactly.
Is that true?
That is true.
And so-
July and August and September are going to be the key months because those are still very heavy summer tourism months. And we know, I mean, anecdotally, I live at the lake. I see there's fewer people out there. I see there's not as many people on the water because they can't get there. So yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time to come.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
I thought you did a wonderful job
Yes.
when we attended the county meeting, and I thought it's necessary for you to be here, so thank you so
Sure.
much.
And anytime you need me, just let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, and the reason I had Amber come to us today is that I've worked with my counterparts, Mayor Holcomb and Chairman Paxson, and they all individually or with their commissions have passed a disaster declaration regarding our economy and the lake elevations, things of that nature. We're the third entity to do so, and we feel that there's strength in numbers. And if all of our major entities assume a disaster declaration or forward a disaster declaration to the governor's office, we feel our voices have a better chance of being heard. So with that, I have included in the packet a disaster declaration. If you'll go down to page 421. If you've had a chance to review, is there any discussion on the declaration itself?
I was just curious if anybody had public comment on that particular item, if they wanted to speak up before we made a decision, or if we want to. I wasn't sure if they had comments on it.
I don't know. Does anyone in the audience going to comment on this particular aspect of our agenda?
If I comment on this, does it feel like the 3 minutes of what I brought?
That's up to Commissioner Mitchell. You raised the question.
Like this to me seems like a very big, I mean, I understand that the other people, other communities did it, so we probably should too, but
Yep.
I wasn't sure if any of our constituents had any concerns about it that wanted to be addressed. So originally it was after public comment, so there wouldn't be an issue, but because we moved it before public comment, I just wanted to make clear that if somebody did want to speak on it, we did not lose their voice in that.
Okay, well, if you want to change that and make a motion, we can wait until public comment and then vote on it.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to table this until after public comment or back to its original time.
Okay.
Please,
All right.
you seen the president.
The important thing was that we had an audience here. What they wanted
Exactly.
to hear.
They got to see the meat and potato.
All right. Thanks.
Second that motion.
Doris?
Honorable Travis Williams.
Aye.
Honorable.
Aye.
Honorable Joe Putnam.
Aye.
Honorable Rule.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, folks. All right, that's, maybe until we get back to the end until after public comment. Good. All right, I know some of you have been waiting for this. Let's move on to public comment. So there's some rules for public comment, and I've been a little bit lax in this meeting already. Please hold your applause. Please hold any comments. We want to feel that anyone that speaks isn't pressured one way or the other. That we acknowledge their right to speak, no matter what their opinions are, then we don't interfere with that. So please remain silent during their presentation and have respect for their presentation, and we'll move forward, okay? Thank you. We'll start out with Ms. Alice Hutchins.
And despite my smile, I am angry, frustrated, confused, dismayed, and discouraged. The people in this county have spent hundreds of hours researching data centers and the things involved around them. You know what would be amazing? If our elected officials countywide would reach out to the people in this community and say, what do you know? What can we learn? How should we move forward or not in this area of potential growth? Yet when Jason Bach of Green Data and James Prindamano of Pre-Real called, there is time to listen to an official presentation. What was said? We want to know. Data centers are the next great hope for Sierra County? Money to be made? Good paying jobs? What did they promise us? Why were they not invited to share the information with the citizens of this county? We want to hear what they have to say, and we want them to hear what we have to say. It's reported that Jason Bach called the members of Project Consequences uneducated people who don't believe in facts or science. How did he reach that conclusion, having never held a conversation with a single one of them, not knowing a single aspect of their backgrounds? This kind of dismissiveness and disrespect is fuel to the fire of anger growing in the bellies of Americans all over this nation. At the heart of anger is always fear. And we are afraid of having our quality of life diminished or destroyed by people who care about themselves and their bottom line only. Our elected officials are a fragile firewall between us and the waves of money, greed, and misinformation headed our way. In this instance, I am really grateful that New Mexico is always a step behind the rest of the nation. We can clearly see what our neighbors, Texas, just paused 1,800 new data center construction over power grid concerns. The rest of the county is in an uproar. The handwriting is on the wall. We are really angry, and you all are getting the brunt of it. I know you love this community, and you serve out of a desire to chart a path forward in the best interest of all of us. But you can't be followers. You have to do the research. You have to be wise. You need to lead this community. Dolly Parton, may she rest in peace, says, if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are an excellent leader. We are rooting for you. We need your courageous leadership now more than ever. Thank you.
Michael Hutchins.
Good morning. My name is Michael Hutchins. Some of our elected officials are meeting privately with real estate and tech moguls to discuss placing data centers in Sierra County. This information should be shared in a public forum where we can demand full, honest disclosure about data center technology and environmental impacts. Please consider the following on data centers. Jobs. There are good paying jobs for constructing data centers, from about 50 to 2,000, depending on the size of the project. Post-construction, those job numbers drop significantly. Be wary of job claims that are mostly short-term, likely for out-of-state workers, and come at a huge environmental cost. Secrecy. Google in the Dalles, Oregon spent 13 months fighting to hide Google's total water consumption. They claimed that that information was a trade secret. The public eventually learned the data center uses 1.9 million gallons of water per day. Be wary of non-disclosure agreements and data kept secret. Risk. Data centers have proven to be noisy, polluting, energy-guzzling neighbors. Ask hard questions of these moguls, like how will they clean their systems without spilling toxins like Meta did this February in Cheyenne, Wyoming? How will they power their cooling units without increasing costs to the current grid users? Will they mitigate noise pollution? Be wary of big talk with little answers. Water. Yes, the desert's low humidity speeds direct evaporative cooling. This problem is the problem though is that this total amount of water is both direct and an indirect need for this cooling. The direct water need ranges from thousands to millions of gallons of water per day, depending on the size of the data center, and the indirect consumption is up to 12 times higher. More efficient alternatives like closed loop systems use less water for cooling, but they do require huge electrical needs from off-site power sources. The environmental impact is relocated rather than eliminated. Brackish water cooling can reduce pressure on freshwater supplies and meet sustainability goals, but it introduces corrosion, scaling, pretreatment, brine disposal, and compatibility issues. Be wary of those touting new technology that just creates different problems. China. Some believe we need more data centers to stay ahead of China. The United States currently has over 4,700 data centers across all 50 states and 5 territories, about 45% of the world's data centers. China is 4th in the world with 449. We already won the race with China 10 times over. Be wary of false claims of staying ahead of competing nations. I do not believe we should allow data centers in a desert environment like Sierra County. The risk to our surface and subsurface water is too high. The environmental cost outweighs long-term jobs, and those promising these data centers do not have Sierra County's best interests at heart. AI is expanding faster than regulations. So my bottom line ask for each of you is be wary. Thank you.
Thank you. Salome Anderson.
Hello, council members. I would just first like to say that I did not come to Sierra County to start trouble.
Start with your name and address.
Suleme Anderson, Monticello, New Mexico. I did not come to Sierra County to start trouble. I came here to rest and heal myself from a lifetime of trauma, relax my nervous system, and raise my child differently than I was raised. You know why I'm here. We at Project Consequences know about these meetings. We know what was said in these meetings. We know that Jason Bach sat there and lied to you. And you know why we know that? Because we've had actual scientists and experts in their field examine the claims that he's making to you in these private backdoor meetings. And they are completely untethered from scientific and technical reality. So you are being grifted. We want you to know that. And if you're being grifted, we are being grifted. So we ask you, please, to understand that when Jason Bach and these people in these meetings are laughing at us and calling us cave people and saying that we're uneducated, they're not actually laughing at us, the opposition to this movement. They are afraid of us. They are laughing at you because they are looking at you and seeing people that they think are too gullible to check their claims. They are looking at you and seeing people that they think are so desperate for their cash that they will take anything and believe anything without checking the science of it. So we ask you to please check with experts about these claims. I would also like to say that we at Project Consequences get a reputation that we're anti-industry and anti-business, anti-economic development. That is not the case. We are 100% pro-healthy economic development in this area, in this region, in this county. We invite you as our elected officials to think about the fact that your constituents hate this. And I'm talking a majority of your constituents on both sides of the aisle. If you think it's just Democrats, you're mistaken. We have conservatives. I'm an independent. We have conservatives coming to us all the time privately and telling us how grateful they are for our efforts. Please understand that this is widely reviled by your community. So please keep that in mind. We also invite you, as our elected officials, to conduct yourself in private, the way that you would want the community to hear you conduct yourself in public. So, and we invite you as our elected officials to please think about industries that are good for this community, that actually employ members of this community, that the members of this community can access their goods and services, that don't just put money in the pockets of out-of-state and out-of-town grifters who are trying to make a quick buck from this community. So let's think about that. Let's work together on how to see this community thrive in a healthy way that is good for us all. I would also like to say that Project Consequences really asks you to consider what your constituents want. Please understand that we are here not to fight with you, not to argue, not to sit here and scream at you and be disrespectful. That is not our goal. What we want is to work together in a way that is healthy for this community and that your constituents actually want. Please vote for us and not for these people with a lot of money and promises and nothing to back it up. Thank you.
Great.
I know it. I know. Just a minute.
Mayor Heschel, Commissioners, City Manager Whitehead. There isn't water. My name is Steve Green from TRC. There isn't water everywhere, and yet we are connected with our neighbors and share the rewards and the disappointments of water's existence. No city should ever stand alone, and I encourage the Commission to support the disaster declaration issued by the county and Elephant View. Our most important asset for survival is water. It's front and center about discussions of data centers. Large corporations are looking at New Mexico and possibly Sierra County for their data center home because why? Cheap land. And they think we're not sophisticated and they can just run over us. We are so hungry for short-term gains that we lose sight of our future. Yes, we need jobs. Yes, we need appropriate businesses that add to our economy without taking our future away. And that's what a data center will do. The county got it right with a resolution that has put a moratorium on any data center coming into land governed by Sierra County for 18 months to have the opportunity for fact checking, including water studies and downstream impacts. As an aside, in one winter, our sheep farm got 240 inches of snow in upstate New York. That is the type of area that can support and where data centers are built, not in the Sierra Desert, in the Chihuahua Desert. Water and its appropriate usage will determine the very future of our existence. Drought, climate change, water compacts are real. Let us be careful and thoughtful stewards of the land. It is our gift to our future generations of our citizens, tourists, ranchers, farmers, and businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Nate Stevens?
Morning, Commission, Nate Stevens, TRC. And more importantly, good morning to everyone listening at home. I want to ask Sierra County a question this morning. While we are fighting amongst ourselves, are we missing the boat? Think about how much energy we spend fighting. Citizens organize, petitions are circulated, lawsuits are filed, industry hires attorneys, lobbyists are hired, politicians are pressured, neighbors become opponents, millions of dollars, thousands of hours, and an extraordinary amount of human intelligence are spent deciding who is right and who is wrong. Meanwhile, our young people leave, businesses struggle, buildings sit empty, infrastructure gets older, our tax base struggles to support the community we want. Another year passes, then another. So I keep asking myself, what if we pointed all that energy in the same direction? What if instead of spending millions of dollars fighting our overdevelopment, we invested more money into intelligence and energy into figuring out how to develop responsibly? What if the environmentalist sat beside the engineer, the fisherman beside the developer, the farmer beside the scientist, the industry sat across from the company that wants to invest here, and neither one began by asking, how do I defeat you? What if instead they asked, how do we solve this? Because the problems are real, water scarcity is real, economic decline is real, our children leaving Sierra County because they cannot find opportunity is real, and the responsibility to protect this extraordinary place is real. But none of those problems will be solved by standing on opposite sides of the street yelling at one another. Problems are not solved by choosing corners, they're solved by choosing a table. And Sierra County has the opportunity to build that table. Beneath us may be geothermal energy, peat brackish water, and potentially recoverable minerals that deserve serious scientific investigation. Imagine producing reliable clean energy here. Imagine developing alternative industrial water sources instead of simply competing for our precious fresh water. Imagine recovering useful minerals from that water, treating it and putting it to beneficial use. Imagine attracting new industry because Sierra County can offer something extraordinary: energy, water innovation, open land, technology, and accountability. Then imagine telling industry, come build here, come invest here, come create jobs here. But if you come here, you will protect our fresh water, you will protect our land, you will measure your impact, you will publish the results, you will be held accountable, and you will leave Sierra County better than you found it. Why is that impossible? Why must our choices always be development or environment, jobs or water, industry or a way of life? I reject those choices. I believe we can protect the river, create the jobs, we can protect the aquifer and grow the tax base. We can welcome investment and demand accountability. We can give our children opportunity and leave them the mountains, water, and open country that were left to us. But we have to be willing to sit at the same table. Bring scientists, agricultural, environmentalists, industry, bring our elected officials, bring our citizens, and especially bring the people who disagree with us. But put the evidence in the middle of the table. And if science tells us something cannot be done safely, don't do it. If the science tells us the resource needs protection, protect it. But if the science shows us a responsible path forward, then we need to be encouraged to take it. Thank you.
Cheryl Ray.
That's the best exit.
Cheryl Ray of TRC.
We all bear some responsibility for being asleep at the wheel as big tech ramped these AI data centers through. But the subterfuge and arrogance is especially galling in the case of Spaceport America. They were mandated on our dime to do aerospace and to attract aerospace tenants. 5 AI data centers really strained the definition of aerospace tenancy. And yet here we are. Under cover of darkness and zero public participation, Spaceport drafted a sublease with a tech CEO who has a very shady history and no actual experience building a data center. As I understand, this sublease is currently awaiting approval from the land commissioner. Did Spaceport even vet this guy? Was the carrot he dangled before them so enticing they went into denial over his complete lack of experience and accomplishment? Did they ignore something so basic as the fact that we just don't have enough water or energy for a project like this? I know the potential to expand the tax base is very tempting, but if the inexperienced and unsuccessful Green Data CEO is lobbying you in private, please don't fall for it. Like all the predatory actors of big tech, he is all stick and absolutely no carrot. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Hay.
My name is Stacy Hay. I live in Tier C. What I want to present is in California, where I was living before, there was a gold mine that was put in 1980. This was before they had to have bonds. And this gold mine, over the years, it was there for 20 years. That's it. It took out a high school, an elementary school. I mean, it displaced a whole community. And at the end, the company was a Canadian company and they filed bankruptcy. And they did not clean it up. They left this mess for us, the taxpayers of the county. And later, when that piece of property, after it had to be cleaned up, still wasn't clean enough for it to have anything else to do. So it sits there empty and it sits there raw and it's not being used because it's still not cleaned up enough, even though the county paid for it, us, the taxpayers. So if anything's going to be done, you better have millions of dollars set aside in a bond that if anything happens, as far as data centers, whatever, to clean it up, because it's going to happen. You're going to have to clean up the mess and we're going to have to pay for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. That concludes our public comment section of this meeting. You guys ready for a break or you guys ready to go?
Okay, for a little while.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll move on with the meat of our agenda now, but thank you very much for your candor and your presentations. I think they were well received and we listened to them. Okay, thank you so much. Let's give it just a minute if anybody wants to share. Good to see you guys over there. But we have one person speaking.
We can bring her up right now if you want. Or you can go back to before we can vote and you.
They can see it all.
Okay, sorry for the brief interruption, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go back and clean up our agenda and go back to G4. And we'll go ahead and talk about our disaster declaration. We did have one comment during public comment. Is there any further discussion on the declaration? Any recommended changes or improvements?
Yeah, and I looked at that and I think, we talked about, I think it's the usual form we've used, we've had a disaster declaration passed. You have like the 4 whereas, it's basically setting forth what your authorities to even do it. And then towards the end, it tells you really what we're resolving to do, which it would include, for example, our position is that we should have this declared as a disaster. That's really the key language. And then of course it talks about really the economic impact that we're looking at. So I think, I looked at it, I thought it was fine unless somebody had any questions for me.
I have a few comments.
Yes, sir, please.
Mayor Pro Tem, just a few comments. First, I want to really express my thanks to the county manager, Amber Vaughn. We were fortunate to see the presentation and it was nice. I got a little extra time, so I didn't have to put that presentation together. She did a great job. Appreciative of that. I did present to each of you a document showing the last 2 years of lodger's tax. That's a prime indicator, and I certainly wanted to make sure that you saw that those numbers were relevant. We did see about a 16% decline in lodger's tax from 24-25 to 25-26. If you've kept up with Angela's presentations through lodger's tax approvals that you've done, they've been conservative because the numbers have been down and we've kind of been paying attention to that number. So definitely we're seeing that 16% decline. We also had Main Street reach out, kind of have conversations. I think we might draw a correlation where the lake is not a direct effect on what we're seeing. We would say, we didn't break down the lodger's tax to go look and see how much, were the hotels still consistent and maybe we're losing revenue from Airbnb and those that might be using the downtown a little more prominently than the lake traffic. So we certainly, don't have that number. But we felt in some of the areas, some of the businesses felt there was definitely a decline just due to the economy. Let's not lose sight of gas is around $4 a gallon, diesel's at $6 a gallon as I was driving through the state this week. There are other factors that potentially could be driving what's affecting Tier C. But the lake is certainly a significant factor. I would support, I've shown you the GRT running that same report to say that we have been consistent. I was reminded that looking at an economic downturn is it really is looking at it in a recession set of minds. So as a financial advisor, those of us that be looking would know, you never know you're in a recession till the recession is over, which is your point, right? We don't know the data from July and August. We won't see that till September and October. So just bear that in mind that these numbers, again, could be continuing to trend down. So, and then I think I asked the mayor who we talked about this disaster declaration, and certainly working with his counterparts, drafted, worked up with us to draft this and put this declaration together. And we do want to feel like we want to be supportive where we can to other agencies within our region. Again, if the state park needs assistance with making the park better or providing access with what we have, because again, we do have water, right? There is availability, but it's amazing. As I just came back, I'll finish with this. As we just came back from the municipal league meeting, it was asked of me constantly, how bad is the lake? So the sad part is that message gets out, right? The marketing gets out on the bad side. And so that has a definite effect where, again, the lake does have water and there is opportunities to recreate. And so it may not be just directly finding a way to help a business. It may be just us thinking different ways to market and use what we have to remind people still come to Sierra County, still come to Elephant Butte. There's still plenty of things to do. If it's not the lake, it's the trails, it's the downtown, it's those things. So I just want to make sure we have a broad picture, and then really more than anything, let you see real data from your financial reports that do support the fact that we are in a downturn of our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other comments?
I wanted to mention something, I think when giving the presentation, I said something like, I was deceived by the numbers. I did not mean at all to say that I was being deceived by anybody. Anything that Amber was saying was my own interpretation was off. So let's make sure we're clear about that. And I agree with what the mayor said and what Gary said about the impact of the last couple of months is really going to be very telling. So I'm in favor of going forward.
My only concern was that declaring a state of emergency, it almost like broadcasts what Gary was saying about Sierra County's in a state of emergency, don't go there. And I worry about that. But again, if we present it in a way that there is, we have to do this in order to be united, it's stronger if 3 communities are supporting this disaster as opposed to just one by itself. I do get that. And but my main concern was just, scaring people away. But I also understand that if we're going to try to get any type of funding to help alleviate this, we're going to be strong together.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, it's the same point here that my motto is always here together we can make a difference, and that is one part of it, that here we help each other. When there is a disaster or emergency, I know that Elephant Butte and Williamsburg would do the same for us, and help us to get funding, and that is the same. And when it comes to things to do to the consequences or the surroundings in Sierra County, there's plenty to do. And we should via Facebook and then pretty much promote the things we do, that we can still show, yes, the lake is low. Yes, I understand that you can't go boating right now, but otherwise we are doing our best to provide services to everybody, and everybody wants to visit us and also relax, get away from the city. We have plenty of events coming forward in the next few months, and we are always welcoming everybody to come visit us and support us. And also I would like to encourage visitors to still visit Elephant Butte and support their businesses as well.
Thank you. Yeah, in closing, just I will say that many of our businesses rely on our local economy. And we know that the trend is down, certainly with lodger's tax. And some businesses are in precarious positions. So it's more important than ever that we support our local communities, support our local businesses, and do whatever we can. Stay off of Amazon. Visit some of our stores downtown. Ask your relatives to come and visit our community. There's a lot of things to do. And, promote our community whenever we can. I think that's an important thing to do. As I said earlier, the trend that's going to happen, we haven't seen yet. And and I don't want it to be any worse, but I know that several of our businesses are on the cusp and we need to support as many of them as we can. So with that, if there's an inclination for a motion, I'll take that.
Move to adopt resolution number 182627, declaring a local disaster emergency related to the Olive Butte Reservoir.
And I second.
Honorable Ron Kessler.
Aye.
Honorable.
Aye.
Honorable.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right, let's move on to item E, consent calendar, which is item 1, acknowledge purchase reports of items under 60,000. And 2, take home vehicle form police department. Discussion, issues? Having no discussion, all in favor of approving the consent calendar, consent calendar, acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number F, new business, discussion action, land lease agreement with Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores Incorporated. Assistant City Manager Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners. I'll give the background a little bit on this and then refer over to our city manager while they work on getting Barbara connected with Love's Truck Stop. She'll be attending virtually. So Love's is requesting a lease of approximately 350 square feet of city-owned property near exit 79 for a directional billboard. You have a draft lease within your agenda packet. We do have some edits, a little bit back and forth between our city attorney as well as Love's attorney that will still need to finalize. We did a comparison for the land lease. We based that off of the appraisal that we had done for property land lease out by our airport. And so that only came out to an estimated $14 a year. So what we're proposing is maybe an annual rent between the $500 to $1,000 a year range. I think that Love's is looking at maybe a $750 per year to lease that small section of property. Love's would be responsible for permitting construction, utilities, maintenance, insurance, removal and restoration of the sign. The purpose of the sign is to make sure that the trucks see clear direction to go towards the Love's Truck Stop as opposed to either getting back on the freeway to head south accidentally or turning the wrong direction and heading in through town and potentially, having to pull the big rigs through town. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to city manager for his statement. And
Barbara, can you hear us? Yes, I can. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
great. Okay, I'll turn it over to city manager. There.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, just a brief, just a support on Tracy. If everybody remembers correct, as we've worked our way through the Love's application and getting them on board, one of the items that they had asked if it would be possible to lease space on our water tanks. We had talked about that in several meetings. They recognized that they wanted to put something on the tank that would help users direct to their location. And we had proposed in those meetings, doing something with that and then sharing another tank where we would put something that would be, welcome to the city of Truth or Consequences. And we kind of went back and forth in conversations with Barbara, the staff that Love's. It kind of indicated to us that they had felt like that would be a little bit of liability for them, that painting the tank, they had been in situations where they've seen where the paint could be a little bit corrosive and could cause problems. And so they kind of backed off of that idea. We started pursuing this idea of a billboard. As you know, there are 5 billboards at the airport property that I've talked about over the course of the last year. We did extensive research. I have to thank Angela, the staff. We looked hard to find those leases. We could not find a contract for any of those particular leases. But what we did in some conversations recognize that those billboards have been leased for more than 50 years to individual users. Those users pay about $150 annually, but they only lease the land. The city does not own the billboard. The individual has to then make application to the NMDOT. They have to follow the proper sign ordinances, and then they're responsible for all the information that goes on that sign. So in that research, I was hoping to really craft this proposal off of that, but it turns out we really don't have it. So we want to probably use this item to craft those leases into the future. I want to be fair and open that, you know, again, those billboards at the airport have been used for a long time under a similar condition. The owners receive an invoice, they pay their bill, they've not asked any questions. So I don't certainly want to say that we're looking to raise their rates from the 150 to 750, but we do need to look at those, make sure they're properly contracted. We know how they get handled, and then kind of follow the same turn. In this particular lease, what we would be proposing is kind of similar. We would just lease the land. This would be inside the fenced area of our water tank area. There's sufficient area to move. It would not hinder anything that we do. It wouldn't be in the way. We offered that we would not provide any electricity. So the sign will have none. They'll have to either figure out a solar application or some type of paint that would be reflective. And so our recommendation is that we follow what we had started with them. We back off of the tank presentation and move to this billboard opportunity. And I thank the assistant manager for working so hard on making sure that we're within policy, within code, and everything does seem to be in order. So, and with that, Mayor, you could visit with Barbara and ask any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to acknowledge, first of all, there is a need for a sign there. I live pretty close to that area, and constantly I see people going down the interstate, toward the interstate, because they see the love sign high in the sky, and they'll turn left and they're back on the interstate and they miss Loves. That's a traffic hazard that needs to be rectified, and it's happened on several occasions. So we need to put something there. I'm glad that you're thinking about it and willing to move forward. That's one idea. The other idea I have, if you break it down per square footage, it doesn't make sense because it doesn't even pay for the cost of administration. And you know, and to administer these leases and things of that nature, we need to have a base pay. And I think that should serve as a formula for other base situations like that in the future. So I think we need to come up with that to some degree. And I also want to be cognizant that when you put a sign up, I know they may only take 32 square feet, but it influences whatever else goes around that sign. So although the lease itself only takes a small percentage of the area, it does influence a larger area because of the virtue that the sign's there, and then other things can't be built close to it, and that does change the narrative to some degree. So there are some opportunities lost in some instances if we go that way. So in my view, then we should establish a base pay, and then above that we can figure out if there's any other percentages we want to add to it. If we want to take a base and then add a percentage like the 14 something a foot on top of that, we can come up with some different scenarios. That would be my recommendation. Anybody else have anything further?
One thing I would just mention is that as Ms. Alvarez pointed out, there have been some versions going back and forth, and we got a red line version. We still saw a few things in the lease that we still might want to work out. So I think the idea, and you know, Ms. Alvarez, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea might be to, if we can agree on what the rental amount will be, you might want to just agree to the concept of a lease and allow us to make whatever additional change we might want to make it and authorize us to go forward without having to bring it back to the commission. Is that correct?
I can do, yeah. If I can just add to, this is just for the land lease. We do have a process through zoning that they will still have to go through for the signs.
Right.
And there are fees associated with the size dependent on the sign as well.
Okay.
So.
And can we hear from the Loves representative? Ma'am, do you have anything you'd like to add to our discussion?
I really think you kind of trying to get that traffic to keep going and past the southbound on ramp. Like you said, they're really seeing that sign. Our sales numbers and that we anticipated that we reported to the city, you know, as we were going through the process of the development permitting, we're not getting to those. We're less than 50% of where we need to be. And, you know, the earlier conversation in your meeting about the economy, we recognize that that's a certain amount of impact to it as well. But it just makes it even more critical for us to be able to find a way to maneuver those big trucks past those water tanks to get to our entrance. We're certainly open to other ideas that folks have. We are working and waiting on the state for the blue board signs that are at most exits. You know, they call them, well, we call them trailblazers, the ones that kind of have the arrows on them that'll point you in a certain direction. However, the state is going through an RFP process, and we've been told it could be 18 months or more before they have a new contractor to manage those blue boards. So this is another way for us to try and solve, the overall problem. We really appreciate the city working with us and having this as an opportunity to present to the commission today. We hope that you will take it under advisement and help us help the community.
Okay, thank you. Right, any other questions?
No, my just main issue is I see a future of having art on water tanks in this town. It's throughout the I-25 up and down, and we don't have that presented in our city. I know it's kind of a steep edge when you come off of those water tanks towards I-25. How high is that sign going to be that it would actually block the water tanks themselves? Do we know if it's, because I can see it on the map, but I don't have like a good perspective of how close that is. It almost looks like it's down in that parking lot, that turnaround area from the dock, but I don't know if it's right up on the water tank along the fence line, which would make it a higher.
Barbara, can you mute your mic real quick? It is giving interference. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Glines. Again, we've not actually walked the site, but our vision is that the sign would be just high enough to extend past the fence, the height of the fence, which is 6 feet. And then it would be in a location kind of between in between the two tanks. So, it would probably need a little a walk around to make sure that we accomplish that. Because I would agree that if there was a project that needed to be there, we'd want to accomplish that. Then I would also comment, we'd want to make sure that we could accommodate potentially other users, right? We definitely, don't want to just favor Love's, if you will, if some of the downtown businesses, or we wanted to put a billboard and needed to use that space, we'd want to make sure we had enough space to accomplish one or two, that if another business wanted to lease that space to direct traffic, we'd need to be open to that. So I certainly would indicate, as we bring this, we could definitely get up on the site and look and might find the most advantageous. There's about, I didn't measure it, I didn't step it off, but 35 feet between the tank and the fence. So it could be done in an area closer, right? We would want to put it as close to the fence as we could so that it never interferes with our ability to maintain the tank, work on the tank, drive around the tank. So certainly we could look for that.
I guess my next thought is a billboard there our best idea going forward there, or that when we could have wayfinding signs? I know we don't even have the true wayfinding sign besides Las Cruces left. And there's not, that sign is in perpendicular to the road itself, maybe if not past it, when you're going up to the Loves of Humboldt. If we added a simple wayfinding sign there also,
sure,
of a love sign with an arrow in a DOT style with the blue and then the gas, that could be also useful. And that'd be a small road sign, and we could put 3 of them across there also.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think it would be worth our time to investigate what we could do at the actual exit on both sides to do wayfinding for everybody, right? In that, so that when you come off the freeway, you get a clear opportunity. They would be paying to put a sign that just continues to move traffic over, but it would be worth our time to find that and see if we couldn't do that. But again, as you know, the last time we just did an MOU with the county because that land right on the other side of the freeway it's privately owned, but it's in the county. But there could be some workaround we could do there and work on that as well.
I don't mind the idea of a billboard there. I just think it would be also advantageous to have some billboards for local businesses here so that you can get them to Loves. They see the billboard and we get them back in downtown. Not just worry specifically about the trucks, but have the advertisement space if we're going to lease it out, not just specifically for Loves. That's something to look for. And future use of the land.
We could agree with that.
So I think we can acknowledge that we need to enter into some type of agreement because the pressing issue here is traffic. And we need to create a safe passage for our folks, or it's a safety concern for us. So we have to move on something. I think I'd like to leave it up to management to negotiate, with the discussion that we've had, and then come back to us on the placement of the signs that doesn't interfere with the water tank itself, and that potentially could provide other ways to advertise our community. Okay.
As far as the number goes, I agree with you. I feel like that's per square foot. Very, very cheap for like what we recommended for 1,000 using the airport appraisal rate. I would know what to recommend as far as more.
Well, yeah. Pardon for the interruption. I think there's a base rate that for all applications of this sort should have a base rate. There should be a minimal charge for anything that we do along this line. And if that's $500 or $750 a year, that should be the minimal charge. And then above that, we can add square footage or something along those lines. And that would differentiate those things a little bit compared to what they're trying to do. I think I'd leave that up to city manager to negotiate and report back to us. Okay.
With that, I would like to make a motion to approve entering into a land lease agreement with Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores, Inc. for an annual lease rate of and authorize the city manager and city attorney to finalize and execute.
Oh, second that motion.
Okay.
Do we need, do we need to actually have a figure, or did you, I wasn't sure what you said about the rental. I didn't know really where we were on that. Or how do you want to proceed on that, I guess? Or do you want us to bring it back to you, I guess, for your determination? I wasn't clear.
Yeah, I think we want to figure out what the base rate is going to be, no matter who makes the application. Obviously, Love's is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They can afford anything if we ask, but we're not going to do that. We want to be fair across the board, and so it's got to fit a lot of different scenarios. I think that's worth discussion.
Mayor Pro Tem, in Jay's comment, again, if you look at the presentation we've made, we anticipated something around 750 annually for that base rate, right? We're getting 150. Again, using the square footage from the lease that we have, right? We've done an appraisal on our land to see what it should be just, the lease would be $14.50 by that. So even if we used a base rate plus the square footage, if we did 500, we're still not going to get to 750. So
right.
It's my recommendation that we bring the lease, that we perfect the lease in and around the $750. And if you feel like you want to set a rate of 750 plus square footage cost based on the appraisal, then I would ask that you make that in the motion, and then we just negotiate that. So in this particular case, the base rate would start out at $764.50. It would be that rate for 5 years. And then there would be an escalator based on the economy to go up after 5 years. And that's what we would propose, is something like that, where it's set and then it has an escalator and then it just climbs as we go. But our recommendation, I think, would be safely to say 750 should be at least the base rate at this point.
I have a motion to
I motion to amend what he said. 750 base
plus.
Okay.
And I guess, again, I'm just thinking going forward. So if we agreed on that, on those figures, then our Gary and I are at liberty to actually work on negotiating the final document. And then we just do it administratively without having to bring it back to you. Is really what I'm.
She had that in the first motion.
All right. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I am curious about the placement of the sign and its surroundings. So I don't know if we need to bring that back or not, but I think I would trust you to do it in a way that
it's going to the planning and zoning board, right?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It doesn't necessarily have to go based on the sign application process. There's the size they pick would fall within the code, but we definitely have the ability to meet with Barbara and their staff on site and go look at the actual location and identify that clearly, where they get clear line of sight visibility from the turn, and we protect the tank for future art. I think we could find that perfect spot.
Yeah, I think I'm adding to the motion that we authorize the city manager and the staff to make the final determination on placement of the sign. Okay, Preston, to do that. Okay, please add that to the motion. Okay.
So Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell made the motion, Commissioner Glenn seconded, so Honorable Ingo Hopper, Honorable Todd Blunt, Honorable Rob Peschler, Honorable Desmond.
Aye.
Carried. F2.
Thank you. Mayor, you may want to.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Is that okay? Does that sound like we're compatible here?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for attending. Move on to item F2, discussion action conditional use permit. Shipping container at 818 North Magnolia Street, Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioner. The owner is requesting a conditional use permit to allow an existing shipping container to remain as an accessory storage unit on the residential property. The owner was unaware of the requirement, and so this is a compliance where we're bringing them into compliance right now. This did go in front of our planning and zoning board, and there was no opposition, and the planning and zoning unanimously recommended approval. I'll stand for any question.
Commissioners, do we have any questions, comments? There was extensive notes by the Planning and Zoning Commission, so I think they've asked a lot of the questions that we wanted to know about. So I think I'm sufficient or okay with that. So if there's no discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the shipping container at the property of 818 North Magnolia Street as presented.
We're actually approving the conditional use permit.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Conditional use permit.
Okay, have a motion to have a second.
Second that motion.
Thank you.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hopper.
Aye.
Honorable Todd Blunt.
Aye.
Honorable Paul.
Aye. Motion carries. Move on to item F3, discussion action conditional use permit and variance request for parcel number 287-857-366-7187. Ms. Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners. Ready Rigs Towing is requesting a conditional use permit as well as 3 variances for a secure towing and impound facility. Properties located in the C1 commercial district. The facility would allow law enforcement, local law enforcement impounds to remain in truth or consequences instead of them having to take them to their main facility in Anthony. The variance is to allow the storage of impounded vehicles for more than 5 vehicles outdoors, as well as a potential 550 square foot office building instead of the 800 square foot. We did present this to the Planning and Zoning Commission. There was a neighboring resident that did raise some concerns regarding some noise and lighting as well as trash. So Planning and Zoning did unanimously recommend approval with conditions requesting that the towing company did address some of the noise and light impact. And we also recognize the fact that this is the conditional use and subject to annual review. The towing company is not they won't be doing just private tows. They'll just be working with our local city, state, sheriff's department for impounded vehicles during a law enforcement process.
Okay.
With that, I stand for any questions.
Right, do we have any questions, comments?
I just want to start with, do we have the actual list of what are the approved towing companies that the police department, sheriff's department calls? How many people are on that list total?
The Ready Rigs Towing is here, so, yeah.
I believe
Come up to the mic and say your name.
Humberto Valenzuela. I believe there's 4 companies. One of us is us.
Sure. And the way it works that you're rotated a week at a time?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess my idea is what? We're taking cars from downtown TRC to essentially the border of Texas. Across multiple, across counties. I don't understand why we're so far outsourced of a towing yard. And that's just before the actual, it's just me trying to understand how this works.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
I'm with the Sierra County Regional Dispatch, so we dispatch for them and they are on rotation for a week, 7 days. Every Sunday we change out the rotation. There for a while, we only had 2 records that were on rotation. One of which hasn't answered our calls since December. So technically we only have 1. And we also had bar 2, but they're more class D records for like the bigger RVs and stuff like that. So our mainest concern was officer safety. If they're on the side of the highway and they have an arrest, they have to stay with that vehicle as well as the arrestee until the record company comes. Sometimes it would take an hour, maybe even longer, depending on where they're coming from. Also, we would sometimes have to call out to Garfield as well, which is also out of state, or no, I'm sorry, out of town, which isn't that far. You know, it's further, it's closer than it is where they're at, but that's why they're trying to get this yard so that we can have a closer record company for our officer safety concerns.
I'm sorry, Matt, do the other record companies, do they have storage capabilities for vehicles, or is there only storage capability in Anthony?
I believe Sierra Collision has a tow yard and Cars Collision has a tow yard, but Cars Towing hasn't answered since December. And they haven't had a call out since then, and it was only 1 record.
How often are vehicles towed?
Quite often. It accidents, arrests, it can vary.
Okay, and you're representing that there's a lot of downtime sometimes when an officer gets on scene, has to tow a vehicle and trying to find a wrecker service.
Absolutely. Our biggest thing was officer safety. If they're on the side of the interstate waiting for a wrecker with an arrestee, it can, you know, the arrestee can get violent and, you know, they might already be violent. And sometimes, you know, we have to have an officer wait. So we have to take them off the street too, or have another officer come on scene so they can wait for the vehicle. So that was our mainest concern, is just having extra help, really.
I know there's a letter of support from your organization and others as well.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other
Mayor.
questions? I'm sorry.
Mayor, if I could, I'm fortunate to be able to talk with some knowledge
Can I
about
ask
this
you-
because I owned a towing company. But let me express that one of the challenges that you have in the tow business is this type of a call, because you have to, when you're on rotation, you accept the call, you have to take the car. So it ends up in your care and custody. And a lot of times you're picking up vehicles that the owner doesn't want to come back. If it's a traffic accident, let's say they've destroyed the car and there's no insurance, the towing company is stuck with that car till they can go through the process to get the title, which takes some time. So in your image of them moving it, it's a nice accommodation to make sure that if they pick up a car that the owner could come back for, that's here in our community, so the owner can pick it up here. So that's the reason to give some extra time for those cars to be here. But if those cars are destroyed or damaged or need to be put in the tow yard for up to 120 days, sometimes I couldn't get a title for more than a year, and I'd have to take care of that car just to take it to an auction to get $50 for it, right? So there's a real challenge for the tow companies, and that's a reason why it becomes difficult, I would assume, with the other local providers. It just, their yard gets full, they get to a spot where there's no money in it, and so they just choose not to take those calls. So what you're looking at here is if they leave the cars on this site that are able to pick up, the local folks can pick those up, and then after a period of time, they would take those on to their tow yard in Anthony and then deal with it and dispose of it themselves. So what we would hope, and when I spoke with Tracy about this particular application, that, you know, no owner is going to have to drive all the way to Anthony in the morning to pick up their vehicle. So it would give them that opportunity.
I mean, it's an hour and a half, 2-hour drive from Anthony to TRC. How does having that tow company have a storage lot cut down on the amount of time the officers on the highway with the vehicle? Are they planning on having, I guess this might be a question for them, we're going to have a tow truck driver on call in TRC along with the office?
We currently do that. We have a tow truck when we're on our rotation here for the whole week. So they respond right away.
Okay. So they're not leaving from Anthony to here.
No, they're here and then once we pick up the vehicle, right now we have to take them to Anthony.
Right.
Because we don't have a storage facility here that is PRC regulated.
That actually makes more sense. Okay.
And Mary, Dirk brought up another good point, right? They are regulated by the Public Regulation Commission as well. So not only do you have to give them permission, they have to go through those state IDs. And then part two, the central dispatch does a nice job trying to find, right, in this case, 4 providers that they could create a 1-week rotation. So everybody gets a little piece of the pie. But if nobody responds, right, they could reach out to the next, which could be Garfield. They could come up, and if they couldn't, they could reach out again to this company, and they may have to come all the way from Anthony if they're not on rotation, but nobody accepts the call, right? Because at the end of the day, the vehicle needs to get picked up, and that's where the law enforcement officer would be kind of stuck waiting for someone to come and get that vehicle if it was to that level.
I have one more question for you. One of the concerns is that we pick up these vehicles and they're not operational, or you have to hang on to them for 6 months or a year. What keeps you from storing more and more vehicles on that lot? Is it your intention to move them out and store them somewhere else for long-term use? It's just a temporary use, or how's that gonna work?
So if we'll just keep them there while we get the paperwork ready and get the titles. After that, once we get titles, we will be transporting them down to Anthony to scrap them, sell them. That's what we're.
And those are the ones you're gonna have to keep long-term. So
Yes.
short-term use, though, would be more convenient for people that have their vehicles towed, right? To be able to get them right away if they have the proper paperwork.
Yes, sir.
As far as I think it's one of the variances listed for the 500 square feet instead of 800 square feet, it's a prefab building for this on the minutes. Is that gonna be a permanent structure or a temporary?
It's probably gonna be a prefabricated office or mobile office that we've been looking at.
It's not there now?
No,
So you have something in mind to put there.
yes.
That still has to go through the process as well.
Okay.
So right now we're just focused on.
The other thing you want to keep in mind, commissioners, is that this is a conditional use permit. It will be re-inspected after a year. If we have issues or problems with this particular facility, then we don't have to reissue the permit. And I think that's going to be an important consideration. Is nobody likes a junkyard in their neighborhood. I know you're not going to try to operate it as that. I'm hoping that you'll stay on top of it, move vehicles out, and do what's good for the area. And if that's the case, then we could reissue the permit when it's appropriate.
A lot of those notes up, like there's not even a full block in between the next yards from this location in front of it.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Whitehead, you have some personal knowledge about this area. Is it conducive to this kind of an operation?
Mayor Pro Tem, yes, I do own a piece of property in the back that we used for that. We went through the same process when we owned our tow company and set that up. And it is, I think their access looks correct. They have the proper easement to entrance. And then I'll remind you, the Public Regulation Commission requires that they have an office and requires that it's fenced. So I think once you approve this, then they would begin that process. And then the Public Regulation Commission would measure it, see it, and then provide them their permit based on that. But the area is acceptable for that. It's provided that they follow, we put up a fenced area. The last permit you allowed, they're finishing up their fence to make sure that you can't see it. And if it's done correctly and managed properly, it should be fine.
Okay. Right.
I have a question about environmental impact. So, because we are talking also about accident cars, so there's liquids and everything going down. So if in a year, as example here, we would say, who's responsible for the cleanup afterwards? But there will be for sure some kind of environmental impact. So is that falling then on the DC to clean up the property afterwards? Environmentally. Well, you have a car, there is here oil, there is brake fluid, there's multiple. Is it then later on, so we are done with this project here, it is then up to us to clean up, or is it here then part of the lease the agreement that the cleanup of hazardous materials is included.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Hecker, I don't believe in our code there's any requirement for cleaning. Again, this is a private piece of property. The owners own this property. I would assume their responsibility to make sure that environmentally it's sound and cleaned and in good order. But you're correct. There could be a car that sits there that leaks oil onto the ground and those kind of things. Or
Would the PRC take care of some of that at the end?
Mayor Pro Tem, I never saw any.
But they would ensure that it was cleaned up.
No, I can't say that I ever, in our inspections that I went through, that the PRC questioned the material that was on the ground. They mostly questioned, was the building the right size? Could the public access it? And was it fenced and safe? So
do you drain these vehicles when they come in if there's a leaking oil tank or any other issues? Are they set on concrete or in dirt?
Well, right now it'd be dirt. We're gonna try to get gravel.
Okay.
On their screening.
And then do you mitigate spills and things of that nature?
Yes.
Okay, any other concerns or any questions?
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit associated with that extremely long number as presented.
And I'm just thinking procedure, how I can assist you here. I like your motion. I think I'm looking at the Planning and Zoning Commission action report. It has the background and explains the application request as a conditional permit, variance number 1, variance 2, variance 3. So I'm thinking maybe it's the way to do this, like you said, maybe have 4 separate motions, 1 for each. Do you agree? 1 for each action?
Mayor Jay, certainly that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's
or you put it all 4 in the motion.
I thought about that.
But
I'll amend it to be just the conditional use permit in the first one.
I'll second that motion.
Honorable Charles Glenn.
Aye.
Honorable Rob Fessler.
Aye.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hopper.
Aye.
And then I'll make a motion to approve variance number 1 as presented.
Yeah, and I think again, I would think we're taking permit storage of customer-owned impounded vehicles pending legal disposition. I would just use the language that's in the background. That's the reason why I suggested we separate these out.
What Jay said.
I'll second that.
Honorable Rob Fessler.
Aye.
Honorable Charles Glenn.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hopper.
Aye.
Honorable Destiny.
Aye. I'll make a motion to approve variance number 2, permit storage of more than 5 wrecked or impounded vehicles on the site.
I'll second that motion.
Honorable Charles Glenn.
Aye.
Honorable Ingo Hopper.
Aye.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Rob Fessler.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to approve variance number 3, permit construction of approximately 550 square foot office building in lieu of the minimum 800 square foot commercial building of retirement.
I second.
Honorable Ingo Hopper.
Aye.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Rob Fessler.
Aye.
Honorable.
Aye.
Motion carries. Let's move on to item F4, discussion action request to vacate the public alley located within block 4 of the Smith Terrace subdivision. Sabres.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners. This is essentially correcting kind of an old property issue. The request for the alley vacation is an alley that runs through an existing developed property. And it looks like it was actually intended for a vacation in 2004, but the process was never finalized. We did take this in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. They did recommend approval. The alley is kind of goes right through the assisted facility up there on Silver Street. And we do have the Sierra County title is here as well to answer any questions regarding this.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, concerns?
I think as we looked at it, we saw that there was not really a necessity of an easement. I think we addressed that issue, but I think fine as far as that's concerned. Mr. Ashwell, actually, I had a question. I was actually looking at this facility this morning. I assume what would happen if the city commission votes to approve the vacation. They'll probably wanting me to draw up the vacation itself. Looking at the documents that are contained in your packet, which legal description do you think would be most appropriate here? Because I saw there was actually a couple of deeds here that had different descriptions.
Yeah, I mean, you can just do a balanced description, I think. So it'd be the alley within block 4, bounded on the east by lots 1 through 6, bounded on the west by lots 7 through 12, bounded on the north by Barton, bounded on the south by Paschal, as shown on the plat of the subdivision.
Yeah, I saw there was a 1999 quitclaim deed, which actually even went to a meets and bounds description. I'm not sure if that's even necessary or whether we can.
I don't think it's necessary. It's bounded. The subdivision exists. We have all the bearings and distances on the lot lines and on the streets. I mean, frankly, I think it'd be sufficient just to say the alley within block 4.
Yeah.
But
which is what I did
you can
before, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Okay. I'll, if I assume and I'm being presumptuous, but the commission votes to approve this, and if I draw up the vacation, I will go through it with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Good. And then just real quick, Mr. Wu brought it up. Good morning, by the way. Yes, we're requesting, normally when the city vacates a street or an alley, they reserve unto themselves easements and reversionary language to reclaim the property. Under the circumstances, we prefer that not occur because there's a building on top of it. Double checked with utility departments. We believe there are no, and correct me if I'm wrong, city-owned main water lines or sewer lines that run through that alley. My guess would be they're in Silver Street. And then for the power line that runs across the property, there is an express easement for that to the city. So there's really, under the circumstances, no point to preserve anything in the alley itself, which again is under a building.
Thank you. I guess I'd defer to our city manager if he would recommend that if there's no utility easements required.
Mayor Pro Tem, again, unfortunately, I'd have to really defer to planning and zoning and Tracy. Again, that they worked through this. I think the staff has worked on this. So I think we have no concern at this point of the easement access. Again, and as Mr. Ashbalt's explained, there's a building, I think, sitting on the property.
Okay.
And if I remember correct, I apologize for a few things, but I think we did a vacation for this some time back. 20 years ago, it was brought before the commission. It just never was completed or finalized. So really, we're just closing a loop on an issue that just didn't have that done at the time.
And as part of my vacation request, I did get utility clearance. So our water, wastewater, electric has all gone out there and verified that there's no issues or concerns, and they've replied via email.
But everybody's happy with that. I'll entertain the motion.
Thank you.
I move to approve the request to vacate the public alley located within block 4 of the Smith Parish subdivision as presented, and to direct staff to complete any ordinance or recording steps required.
Second.
Honorable Destiny Mitchell.
Aye.
Honorable Bill Hoffman.
Aye.
Honorable Charles Glenn.
Aye.
Honorable Bob Marshall.
Aye. Carries.
Mr. Mayor, if your wall break is still on the table, I would say yes.
It is now 10:53. Let's go ahead and take a break until 11 a.m.
Thank you very much.